Cards the Yards, a sports card and sports podcast, coming to you live from Adventure Stadium at the top of Adventure Begins Comics and Games in Conroe. I'm with Sam today. Sam, how's it going?
It's going good. How are y'all?
I'm doing okay. It's September already.
I know.
So,
hey, it's my birthday month.
Is it?
Yes, it
Happy
is.
birthday month to
Thank
you, then. And the year is flying by.
It is. I feel like it was just March.
Right.
Like, where did the time go?
I think one thing that doesn't help is being in the sports card hobby is we still have products from 21, 22 coming out.
Yes, I think that's the biggest issue is like I feel like all of our years are wrong because in the world of sports, you know, and especially sports cards and hobby packs and things like that, we're always a year behind. So I'm like, are we sure this is 2022 and this isn't 2021 or 2020? Like,
or 1952.
Yeah, depending on, you know, who you are.
Because the hottest card was from 70 years ago. All right. The Mantle, we talked about this a couple weeks back, but there was a Mantle up for auction.
Yes.
That was graded a 9.5 by SGC. And it was projected to crack $10 million, which would have made it the highest sports card of all time.
Oh, it cracked that.
It did.
It cracked that.
This was last week in Dallas at Heritage Auctions, and with the buyer's premium of a whopping 20%, which I've paid eBay fees and stuff before, but I can't imagine on something this big.
This big, like that number's atrocious.
So with that, 12.6 million. So it did get over 10, and then plus the buyer's premium, 12.6 million.
I would just be okay with like a fraction of that.
Oh yeah.
Just to be like, hey.
Yeah. Like even if you had the top right corner of a Mantle,
right?
you would be able to get a fraction of that price.
Right.
But so that was the 1952 Topps Mantle, which technically he has the 1951 Bowman, right? But being the 70th anniversary of Topps, and that is an iconic card.
It is.
And this was the most clean version, as we talked about before.
I mean, it being rated a 9.
It was a 9.5.
A 9.5? Like, that's hard, especially on older cards like that.
Yeah.
Because if, like any good collector knows, if you don't top sleeve it, if you don't penny sleeve it, if you don't put it in a case, if you don't do all these things, it's just like your card's going to disintegrate and then it's just gone.
Or if your grandpa put it in a bike spoke.
Right.
Which, the wheels of a bike to make that cool engine sound way back, whatever cool engine sounded like in 1952.
It happens, though. Like, I have a couple of cards from my grandfather that I'm like, these are such great players. Why would you do this? It just broke my heart. But then I'm like, he was having fun. They didn't know any better. To them, it was just, he was a cool player, so they wanted to show that off on their bikes. Like, the cooler the player, the cooler the bike.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they didn't know what penny sleeves or top loaders were back then because the packs cost a penny. Yeah. So it's...
it would definitely be like half penny sleeves.
Yeah. And sports cards aside, this was the most expensive piece of sports memorabilia ever sold. Earlier this year for $9.2 million, if you're familiar with the Hand of God game by Diego Maradona, where he famously used his hand on a corner kick to score a winning goal in the World Cup. His jersey from that game sold for $9.2 million. So
that's just crazy.
So at 12.6, this secured that spot by a mile. And, again, we'll see how that affects the secondary market, but I'm guessing,
it's going to bump that. For sure.
That's why people at the National were scrambling to get even like PSA 1s and 2s of this.
Yeah, because, I mean, even if it's a lower number, like, it's a legend. You have this card that sold for $12 million. No matter if it's a raw card that looks like your dog did something to it, chewed it up, it's still going to go for a lot more than what it's actually worth.
Right.
Because that price bumps everything else up. Like with most players, if you have one card that just skyrockets, it's going to bring your whole price up.
Absolutely. And what we might see now is people going after like oddball versions, because I know a Jackie Robinson that was cut with part of a mantle on it sold for a premium because of that. So so now that people have discovered like the most pristine version, we're gonna see people come. Versions. We're gonna see people come out of the woodwork and collect crazy versions.
Even with the crazy versions, people are starting to look for players that aren't, in traditional sports, or as we know, like football, baseball, basketball. They're looking for things like soccer, golf, swimming, even volleyball and tennis. I mean, people are just now looking for random cards that, will bring more money in, will bring more fame to them, because like, with the Open coming and with it going on, everyone's all about tennis right now.
Oh yeah. Except for the card companies.
Yeah.
Which is like weird. I've been wanting a premium tennis set for a long time. And
it seems the only time you get them is when they're in like the Olympics, or if they're in like specialty packs, like the Goodwin packs. Yeah. They do all sports.
Right.
But you don't get like this is a tennis pack. I want a tennis hobby box.
Right. And I don't know if that just has something to do with the Tennis Association and the licensing or what, but good segue. Speaking of tennis, there's a pretty big thing going on right now where Serena Williams in Vogue last week basically wrote her own piece and said that she's retiring at the age of 40 to focus on family, but she'll be playing in the U.S. Open.
I'm excited for it.
Yes.
And I am in love. Like, I've loved the Williams sisters. I watched them growing up. Like, they were like, if I had the hand-eye coordination to play tennis, I would have done it. I was more of a softball girl because I didn't need it. But if I could have played tennis, that's who I would have modeled myself after. Even as, because they're fantastic. They're great. And Serena is just on the top of her game. Yeah.
Even now, and she may not have expected to last this long, but just last night she beats the number 2 seed, Annette Contaviet, in 3 sets. And, cavalcade of stars out to watch. I'm sure the ratings are going to be good. Her first match from the U.S. Open got millions of viewers, and it's still that craze about the Williams sisters is still around. Venus, unfortunately, had to retire due to health problems. So this is Serena's last hurrah, but, she's showing right now.
Well, Venus is playing. Like, she's not doing...
I should have said limited.
Yeah, she's limited playing,
due
but
to
she
injuries,
is playing.
Yeah.
But I was also looking up some of Serena's stats, and it seems that when she's going unnumbered up against a numbered, especially a number 2 seed...
Right.
She hasn't lost.
Yeah. Psychological warfare.
I know. It's crazy.
And this was her, believe it or not, 367th victory at a Grand Slam, which is by far and away the record for women. So
that's crazy to me because she's only 40. Like, you don't think about them playing like that and playing multiple times, and to have that big of a number in her career, like, that's crazy.
I mean, that's just how long they've dominated for, right?
Yes.
That's the thing. Now going from tennis, where they have a very set system of players being ranked, and you do an actual tournament with many, many people. Can you imagine if in the world of tennis there was a tournament with only 4 people in it, and that's how it started? So instead of going from like a round of 108 down to like a final 4, semifinal and the final. Well, that's what they do in college football.
Yep.
And, people just fought and clawed for a playoff for a long, long, long time. And now with football about to start, and my beloved Sam Houston Bearcats probably about to be destroyed by Texas A&M, although I'm hoping maybe they only get beat by 42. Whenever Sam Houston plays a giant Division I school, I just hope for a showing where they maybe score 2 touchdowns.
Hey, you got to start small and then work your way bigger.
Well, right.
I mean... I can't say much. I'm an SEC fan.
Well, there you go. Well,
I'm an Arkansas SEC fan.
Right.
So we haven't won a game. Okay. And we haven't had a good winning season since forever. But I'm an SEC fan as a whole. I like the conference. I like the discipline the conference brings. But yeah, no, as a diehard Arkansas Razorback fan, I feel you there.
So you would be in favor of more playoff spots?
I would, 100%.
Maybe like 64.
Maybe like all of them.
All of them. 100, 108 or 122, whatever Division One's up to.
All of them can be playoff spots, guys.
But as you know, right now it's 4. Yeah. And they were very adamant against that for a long time. There's so much money made, though.
Yes.
I don't understand why it's not at least 8. But the College Football Playoff Board weirdly is meeting, the first week of the season to discuss this. I really think it should be 8. There's 5 power conferences.
I think 8 would be a good, because you do have your big conferences, and so it's unfair. And don't get me wrong, as I said, I'm an SEC girl, and we have some power in the SEC.
Yes,
but it's unfair that 3-4 teams dominate every year, and the number 4 seed is always the one that switches it up. Your 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much the same. You're going to have Alabama, you're going to have Ohio State, and then Clemson,
and then a wild card, Yeah.
Sometimes it's Michigan. Sometimes it's Georgia. Sometimes you have Notre Dame. But number 4 seed is always the wild card.
Right.
1s and 2s and 3, usually they don't change unless something drastically happens. But you're always going to have Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson.
And so why not have 5 seeds dedicated, 1 each to Power 5, and then 3 wild cards?
Yeah.
At least shake it up a little bit, because we need teams
you have conferences that have fantastic teams,
right,
but are not going to be able to make it because they're playing people like Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson. They go up to them, and because of how heavy those hitters are, they just run the floor with them.
Yeah.
But it's not giving them a chance to strive to be better and to play those games because they're knocked out before they can even get a chance. But I agree with you. I think an 8-team, do your big 5 like normal, and then have wild cards from conferences that don't normally get to play.
And especially in a world where Alabama was playing the poor little school card against A&M, like, oh, they're paying all their players now. Because with the NIL, the name, image, and licensing, which is probably going to come up on the show from time to time, especially now, because Topps has the ability now
to do it
with Fanatics to produce daily or weekly cards on Topps now with most of the players and schools. So we're going to get logos and actual players that are playing now this season. It'll be interesting to see if, next Monday after this big opening weekend, if Topps actually starts printing cards of current college players. So
I think they'll wait till mid-season.
Okay.
Just so the players aren't, because your first 3 games, no matter what sport you're in, you're always wanting them to be trash, so that way you get better as you go through the season.
Right.
So I think they'll probably wait till mid-season, unless they just have some bangers, if you have some guys that are making NFL plays, sure, those are going to be caught out, those are going to be pushed out, and if Topps doesn't take advantage of that, then they're crazy. But I think they'll probably wait till mid-season and see how the teams do, see how the coaches do, see how things actually progress throughout the season.
Yeah, but you know how everyone is so impatient, and I think that's going to play into this card set. I mean, that's why, like MLB has 162 games, and they feel the need to make 3 or 4 or 5 Topps Now cards every single day. So with college football, people ride or die on each and every play, not just game, play of all the Heisman hopefuls. So I think that kind of thing, looking at the players who are picked to win the awards, if there's a big upset in the SEC or anything like that, I think that's going to come into play. I'm interested to see how much of a hunger collectors have for the college cards. And I'm not talking about people who are diehard alums, but I'm talking about just collectors. Because I think the Burnout has a low burning point.
I think so too, because even here at the shop, most people are like, because we have a bunch of drafts. We have a bunch of draft picks. We have a bunch of things like that are college, jerseys, and we don't sell a lot of it. But I think with the right people, they're worth a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's just trying to figure out that good balance between college and the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have some great players that are going to the NFL. You know that's going to happen. Everybody can look at a player, look at their record, and be like, if he doesn't go to the NFL is stupid. You know, if he doesn't go and do these great things, he's crazy. Now, that doesn't mean once they get there, something doesn't happen. They don't, show their potential.
Right.
But I think there's a weird line that hasn't been quite crossed yet between college jerseys and NFL jerseys.
Yeah.
And I think with Topps doing that, producing those cards, it may help breach that gap where they're like, oh, hey, Mac Jones in a Alabama jersey.
Yeah.
Senior year plus a rookie, Mac Jones in a Patriots jersey.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
I mean, there's only a couple of months in between. It could be worth more.
Yeah, I just know that the college jerseys cards of the players are not as desirable once their NFL career starts. So maybe getting that jump on it where that's your only option. Maybe that'll help. So switching gears to a sport that's almost nearing the end, baseball.
Astros are you ready for it?
No, I'm not ready for it because the Astros make me nervous because they're great right now. They're 11.5 up on the Mariners in the AL West, and surprisingly, they're 5 games up on the Yankees. The Yankees have really tanked lately, New York Yankees. Yeah. But Verlander was having this incredible season. He was 16-3, and then all of a sudden, his last game he goes out, and then in the third inning when he already has 6 strikeouts and his velocity's high up, nothing wrong there. He comes out with a calf injury, and I'm just like, ugh, defeat. But now he's on the 15-day DL. The Astros say the MRI was mostly negative, which I don't know how you have a mostly negative MRI.
Well,
but I guess no tear.
Yeah, there's no tears, there's no rips, there's no things like that. But they could see like a buildup in something, scar tissue from previous injuries or something like that they were a little worried about. But with calf injuries, it's really hard to like pinpoint what's torn, what's not torn, and things like that, because that muscle, the way it rounds out, it's hard to see. It's hard to, figure out what's exactly going on. So it could be that there's no major things wrong with it. There's no rips, there's no tears, there's no, things like that. But it could be a pull or something that, if he puts too much pressure on it, if he walks on it, things like that, it could make it worse. Yeah. So they're just trying to be precautious
And this is me being greedy, but I want him to win the Cy Young.
Okay.
And even after, he's going to miss a game or two, he's still probably going to have the most wins because the next guy back has 2 less wins than him. But,
right.
Most importantly, as I'm sure he would say, first and foremost, we want to win a World Series, and we want to do it without, Oscar the Grouch in the trash can or whatever. So it's like, okay. So we just need to get to that point. So I'll be happy with that. I'll be honest, when the Astros are doing this well, I'm really not paying attention to anything else. So I know there's probably a lot of great pennant races going on, but mostly all I know is that the Yankees are doing terrible, which is great.
Thank goodness.
That we are just so leaps and bounds ahead of our division. It's pretty crazy. I mean, Seattle's having this amazing year, and they have Julio Rodriguez, who's like a generational talent, and they just signed him to this insane 15-year extension.
Right.
But they have to be looking at us and going, okay, what are we supposed to do?
What are you gonna do with me?
Yeah. So, but looking forward to that, and then before we know it, basketball and hockey are going to start right back up.
I know, and then you get into I'm a college basketball fan over an NBA fan.
Okay.
I love college basketball.
Yeah.
I will buy college basketball every day of the week.
Yeah.
And NBA, not so much. I just feel like once they hit that level, they don't want it as much, in my opinion. In basketball. Now, I know people can say that about most sports. College, they want it more because they want to make it to the big leagues. And then once they get there, they're like, okay, I've got my contract, I've got things. I still want to play well, but I don't have to, push myself to do things. Well,
and that might just be the human nature of, 98% of college players, that's going to be one of their last basketball games.
Yep.
But if you're, that top-tier talent, either A, you're not playing because you're already playing for, the Ignite, or you're playing overseas.
Yep.
or you just know that, oh, I got, 10 or 12 years left in my career. So I think that's one of those things where, it's hard to be hungry when, it's like there's another step left.
Yeah.
But if you're like the, seventh man for Sam Houston State, let's say, okay, then that you're going to give it your all the time. Not that other players don't give it 100%, but there's just something about the desperation in human beings that brings out like this
our best
emotion. Yeah. And so when you're watching it, that plays through the television a lot, right? And so
I agree with that.
Yeah. So anyway, that doesn't get going till the fall either. And there's just lots of stuff going on. I think right now, everyone's going to be focused on Serena Williams' next match. So
I know I am. I've got her on both of our TVs in here, waiting to see what she does, see how she does.
Yeah. And so it's just a fun time. So that's the sports part of Cards to Yards. What about the cards part?
Well, we have a bunch of new things, actually. We just got in this 2021 Select Football.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge seller.
Yeah. See, that's why we can't get our year straight.
Yeah. It's because we're in the wrong year, guys.
Back to last year again.
Back to last year. But no, it's fantastic. Like, the cards are gorgeous. Mm-hmm. You can get zebras, you can get parallels, you can get colors. They have a gorgeous new red, white, and blue that I've seen being pulled. It's just phenomenal. Like, and the cards themselves are fantastic. I love them. And I'm not much of, like, don't get me wrong, I like pretty cards, but these are just gorgeous. But yeah, and some of the breaks that I've been watching and things that I've been involved in myself, like, it's just fantastic to see some of the pulls. Even if it's not good teams, there's still some fantastic pulls out there. Another one we have is the 21-22 Donruss Optic Baseball. I have not seen much out of these cards, but from what I can see, card-wise, they're thick, they're gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I like baseball and I watch it, but I don't keep up with all the who's who and what's what.
Sure.
Because, my team is just my team.
Yeah.
But the cards are great. They are really worth, coming in and getting and looking at. Another one we just got in actually last night is the 2022 Luminous. Mm-hmm. It's a little small box that looks like a cigar box, to be honest with you. It comes with 4 packs. Those cards, to die for. They're so dirty, but they're so pretty. You get autographs, you get memorabilia, you get all kinds of stuff, and they are just fantastic.
Okay.
I love, but mostly what we've been getting in is football and baseball because, football's starting up this week. Let's go. And then baseball's rounding out, coming to October and seeing who is going to be our final two.
Oh, yeah. It'll be the Astros.
We think?
I think. Yeah, I think so.
As long as it's not the Yankees, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Astros versus the Yankees again at some point.
That can be like many years down the road.
But we will see. I just can't wait for the card sets to catch up with the year. I know that like Upper Deck MVP hockey is usually the first product out. Yes. That'll actually be a 22-23 product.
Yes.
I know some basketball products are around the corner for the 2022-23 season.
Yes.
Can't wait. But at least all the past years are out of the way. But it looks like there's a lot coming up. Are there any events at Adventure Stadium coming up?
We do have some trade days coming up. I believe the next one is the 14th. Mm-hmm. Also check out our Twitch. JT breaks almost nightly.
Okay.
And does different things like we're about to do the select boxes, which I'm super excited about. We do also have like the Sam and Vic show. We opened a VIP Gems box from Panini's national party. Mm-hmm. And it was some good stuff.
Yeah.
It was some good stuff. We also...
So check that out.
Yes. And then Vic and I also opened up... because, we're women in sports, women in the hobby. Women in the hobby actually did some packs with tops called Women on Tops. Mm-hmm. And we've got some pretty cool cards out of them. mystery packs. We got some swimmers. We got some softball players. We got some golfers, tennis players. They're pretty neat. And we're hoping to do some more things with women in the hobby as well. But they've just been some really great cards, really great players. And we've got a lot of breaks coming up. I know the captain's box is coming up.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for that. The Derek Jeter Transcendent box. I'm excited.
Excellent. So check out the Adventure Begins website.
Yes.
And there's a break section on there too.
There is.
In addition to the boxes and stuff for sale. So we end the show every week with a glossary term. Today I just pulled a wild card. It's going to be acetate. And that is a mostly clear card, like clearly Donruss, obviously.
Yes.
That's completely see-through except for the player, or in the case of like the Marvel cards that Lou and I opened, like the Rogues Gallery, the character or subject on the card. So very cool.
I like them because it's really neat to see because you can sneak some designs into that clear.
Oh yeah,
section.
yeah, you can.
And it's fun to see what they do with it.
Right.
Like I had a guy that pulled a Clearly Authentic last night. It was a player neither of us knew. We looked him up. He's from the Sox. He actually is pretty decent.
Yeah.
But like the way that they made like the Sox logo in the clear part, I was like, that's legit.
Yeah. And you can do like stained glass. You can even throw some die cut designs in there. So very cool stuff. Well, Sam, thanks for being with me on Cards to Yards.
Thank you for having me.
Y'all come check out the Adventure Stadium. Get ready for football season because they are here.
We are ready to go.
This has been Mark and Sam for Cards to Yards.
Well, gang, that's all for today's episode. So join us next week. Cars to Yards, brought to you by the Adventure Stadium and the Adventure Begins. Again, we're located off 1488 and Woodland Square Boulevard. See you next time.